So now that we're done with the squirrel's body, we will be starting with the tail. Okay. Let me turn on the tail. So now you can see it is on. Okay. So the squirrel animation seems to be uh, very intimidating to everyone, mainly because of the tail, because the way the tail moves. Okay. So usually we never notice how squirrel's tail moves, right? So squirrels always, like they're always constantly moving their tail in an S kind of shape. Okay. Obviously, it's not just the squirrel. Any animal which has a tail, it always mimics an S shape. Now, it can be more, it can be less. It depends. Okay. But squirrel's tail is always very much like an S shape. Okay. Normally, when you'll see a squirrel just running towards somewhere or just stopping somewhere, you will notice that it's always in an S shape. So that is something that is like one rule that you have to remember. Never, never make the tail angular like this. Okay? It's never like this. So the tail should always be in a curled shape. Okay? So that is one thing you have to remember. Now, before we continue animating, let's see a few things about a squirrel. So, so you can see I have a video here. I'll just play this. I have increased the speed. This was in very, very slow motion. So see, now here the squirrel is jumping forward. Our squirrel is jumping down, but some things remain the same way. Okay. So let's see. Look at the tail. Like when the squirrel starts to jump, you can see the tail's base goes up, right? At the time the squirrel is jumping. When the squirrel reaches a particular height, the base of the tail is pointing downwards. When the squirrel again comes down to the surface where it is landing, it again goes up. So the base of the tail, like basically tail exists so that these animals can balance themselves, okay? So that they can jump and do all types of things without having any issues. So the tail is there to balance their body, okay? So it always moves, the base of the tail always moves in the opposite direction when the squirrel is jumping up and down. Okay. So that is one thing that you need to remember. And the tip of the tail kind of follows the direction of the body because of inertia. Okay. So it just follows the movement of the body. So you can see here the body was down. So the tail was pointed downwards. And when the body is upwards, the tail is like the base of the tail. Sorry, not the base. The tip of the tail is pointing upwards because the body is going up. Okay. So you can see constantly pointing upwards. Then when it comes back down, again, the tip goes down. So this is one thing you have to remember. The base always goes into the opposite direction and the tip follows the body. Okay. Now this is the physical behavior of a tail. And the reason is solely because of how the tail is used to balance the body. Okay. And when you consider it in terms of animation, you can say that there is always a delay in the base of the tail. So the body moves, but because the tail is lighter, it follows slowly. It does all the same things that the main body is doing, but it does so in a delay. Okay, so you can consider this as the follow through principle. And obviously, the tail is not one single joint, it is composed of many small joints which give a whiplash effect. Okay, like let me see if I can find any video of it. Okay, we're getting all the spinal things. Basically, if you take I think this is, one second, let's see. So they're actually explaining this in a different cause. But the main thing is like if you take a string and you whip it, you will see this kind of wave being formed. Okay. Yes, gym workout ropes. Exactly. Let me search for it. Gym Workout ropes. Can I find something like that? Yeah, okay. This is here. See, this is the whiplash effect. So the wave continues going forward like this. Okay. The force is being applied at the end, but it follows through the full length of the rope. Okay. So wave pattern goes through. I'm not talking about any physics behind it. You just need to observe and see that this happens. Okay. And if you understand this, then you can definitely, I mean, if you can observe it, then you know that this happens and then you can apply it in your work. This is something that you won't always be doing, but of course, when it comes to a tail, this will be something that you will have to do. Okay. Especially in the animation that we're doing now, uh, because the squirrel will land, and at the time of landing, uh, there will be a whiplash effect which will happen in the tail. Okay. So we'll take it very slowly, in an easy way. You can see we have a sketch here as well, which shows the same thing. When the body is down, the base of the tail is up, but the tip is always following the direction of the body. So this is a different thing completely. The squirrel is basically jumping and running, and then it reaches to grab the food. So yeah, so we'll be doing forward jump as well from tomorrow. For now, we'll be doing the simple tail animation. So we'll start it very slowly, very simply. Now, there are many controllers. It can be very intimidating, but again, you have to just remember what needs to be done. The base should always be opposite. Okay. Now, at the starting point, we'll keep it neutral, and at the landing, the squirrel is down, so we will actually keep the base higher. Okay. And because after that, the squirrel just stops to move. It doesn't move after that. So the base of the tail goes up and then it will come down. So basically, it will follow the same movement of the squirrel because the squirrel was higher at one point and then it came back down, right? Same thing we apply to the base. So the base is higher here, then it slowly comes down. The only difference is that the body comes down at the 10th frame, the tail will flatten down around 20 frames. So because there is supposed to be a delay. Okay. So it sounds confusing, but we'll be doing it slowly, so don't worry. So let's start here from the first frame. We need to make it into a neutral pose. So actually, before we do that, there's one thing that I'll talk about. So you can see if you look at the, like I have the controller selected, look at the rotation here. There is a value. There is a value in all of these. Okay, so these are not zeroed out. Usually when you select any controller at its like when you first get it into a default pose, it is always zeroed out. Now, if you try to zero it out, it will become straighter because the rig, when it was created, the tail was actually straight. After the creation of the rig, they had changed the shape to get this nice round shape. So the problem is that when you continue, like when you start the animation, you will obviously be changing it in all the angles and everything. So the problem is that when you finally reach the end, you will want this type of a shape. Not completely like this, but similar to this. So it will be easier if we have it saved in the last frame. So what do I mean by that? I will be taking this controller. Okay, you can see you can actually move it away from the squirrel. Okay, so but obviously we're not translating here. We will be rotating it only. So you can see like I have this controller selected, but all of these are highlighted. This shows that it is in a hierarchy or a parent-child relationship. So this controller is the grandest parent of all, and these are its children. Okay. So the thing is, when you select the main parent, only that one is selected. Even though these others look highlighted, they are not actually selected. Okay. So if you have this one selected and you press S, you will just be keying this one. These others won't get keyed. So now what you have to do, you have to select them. Now selecting them one by one takes time, right? So what you can do is you can grab a hold of the main controller, the grandest parent of all, go to select, click on hierarchy. When you do that, it will select all the controllers for you. Okay, now this works only if there's a parent-child relationship. And how do you know if there's a parent-child relationship? When you select the grandest parent, all the children will get highlighted in the green color. Okay, so that way you will know that there's a parent-child relationship or a hierarchy going around here. And then you just grab the grandest parent of all, go to select, click on hierarchy. Now you have everything selected at once. You don't have to manually select each one of them. And now because everything is selected, I'm at the last frame over here. 1 second. Yeah, so the last frame is 29th. I'll just go here and I'll press S. Now, if you check each one of them, you will see a key. So you can see this one has a key, this one has a key, and basically all the controllers have a key. So you can see it's much more easier compared to selecting them one by one. So this helps in things like these. Okay. So the point of me creating a key over here is so that once we're done with the full animation completely, when we'll come back to this last frame, we will have this shape saved for us. We won't have to manually, uh, you know, rotate them and adjust them to get this particular shape. Okay. And one more thing, this rig slightly, uh, like it causes a little bit of lag in the viewport. Not a lag basically. When you'll continue animating it, you will see at one point the controller will look a little bit away from the geometry. You will see it, it might happen while we're animating it in the class. But let's say if it doesn't happen and when you're working it happens, don't get worried because that's just a display issue. Okay, because this rig was created in a very old Maya version. So just slight thing happens, it still works correctly. The only thing is that the controller will look separate from the geometry. It will still control the geometry, but it will look like it's a little bit away from it. Okay. All right, so let's start. So in the beginning, I will just be using these two controllers to animate them so that we can get the main motion into it and then we can add the whiplash effect and everything which needs to be added. So as I said, the starting frame, I want it to be neutral. So for neutral, I want it to be slightly rotated downwards. Okay, this big controller is slightly inside the geometry because we have squashed it. So if it was not squashed, it would have been properly visible. So you can either turn on the wireframe and see it, or you can keep on pressing Alt plus 1, the shortcut for turning off and on the NURBS curves. Okay, so I use that usually. Uh, and for geometry, we use Alt plus 2. Okay, so if you hide that, you can grab a hold of the controller. So I use these two only to hide and unhide. Okay. Yes, there's one more controller here. I didn't talk about it because we don't necessarily use it. We only use it when like if you want to for some reason stretch it out or you're rotating it at a very weird angle, then what happens? The tail completely comes out of the body, right? So this small controller is there to maintain its connection. So if you keep it like this, obviously it looks like a separate piece. But now that we have this controller, we can use this, take it inside the body and adjust it so it will look like it is still connected to the body. So you guys don't have to worry about it. Okay. I don't want to overcomplicate it. That's why I didn't explain that controller. Okay. All right. So I will straighten this out, just keeping it neutral. Okay. Nothing else. So I have this one selected. I'll select the second one and I will key it. So now it is keyed in this first frame. It's important that it is keyed there. Okay. Now when the body is on the ground, you can see the impact happens at 10th. So at 11th frame, I want the tail to become very, very straight. It should be stretched out, right? Because that's what happens with anything which is lighter in weight. And obviously, we're also following the direction that the base is always opposite to the body. So the body is down, but the base should be upwards, just like how in the video we saw. So I want it to be rotated upwards. So I'm not going to rotate it like this. I will straighten this and I will slightly adjust this. Okay, so you can see there's not much rotation that we've added here. Now let's say if you want to rotate it more, you can, but then again you'll have to use this controller, or you can also translate it to keep it inside. So for now, I'm not going to worry about this particular issue where it is out of the body. Okay, we can do all those corrections later on. So what is happening is neutral here. When the body is down, the tail goes up, the base of the tail. Okay. And don't worry about the intersection here. We will be obviously editing the tail later on. Right now, we're focusing on these two controllers only. Okay. So keeping it high, and I just make sure that you have the proper keys. And then after that, like it's high over here, it is stretched out, but obviously because the squirrel has stopped moving, the tail will come back down to the ground, right? So I'll make it come down around here at 21. Okay, so I'm giving 10 frames, the same amount that we had for the jump to happen. I'm giving the same amount to the tail to go down completely on the ground. Okay, so I will rotate it like this, and I'll use this controller, just making sure to get it on the ground. So you can see the base here is on the ground. So now what is happening? It is neutral here, then it stretches out, it becomes straighter, and then it finally falls down to the ground. And then it goes back up. Okay. So this is the base movement of the tail that we've added. Now we will continue with the rest of the controllers, where we'll actually add the whiplash effect. Okay. And we'll also be breaking the symmetry. Oh, and you can see that glitch happened. See, the controller is here, but the geometry is shifted down. So this type of glitch happens. See, it is glitching when I'm rotating it. It's trying to go back to the actual position, but it is unable to. So just ignore that. It's not going to cause any problem to your animation. Okay. So it's a really good rig. So just ignore that small glitch. It's not going to affect you in any way. Just ignore it and it will be fine. So as I said, I want the tail to be neutral here. So you can do any type of shape here. I just want to, slightly straighten it and slightly tilt it. Make sure that the symmetry is broken. Okay. So I am just slightly rotating it in this way and breaking its symmetry. I want to keep the tip curled only. Now you can see we got a weird shape here. So make sure that whenever you are rotating it, that it is always in this nice rounded shape. It's never straight. And you know what helps? We have something known as this little light bulb that we used in the first few classes when we were doing viewport lighting. So if you turn it on, you can actually see the silhouette. Okay. So this really helps to get proper clean poses. So for that, I'll have to hide the geometry of the ground here. So I'll turn it off. And if you turn on the light, you can see whether you have the correct shape or not. Okay. So let's rotate it and make sure that we have a nice rounded shape. Okay. So now we have a nice rounded shape. And one more thing, like from this angle, you can see if I turn off the light, it looks like the tail is actually thick here. So what we can do here is we can take the controller and slightly tilt it in the Z axis. You can also take this one here and slightly tilt it till you see the opening. Okay. Now, why am I using this? This is very important because all the poses which are really clear should be properly visible when you turn off the light. It should be visible from the silhouette itself. So animators use this process all the time. You have your rig out there and you're posing it, but whether the pose is completely readable or not can be easily be sensed if you turn off the light. Of course, you can ask other people to see whether the pose comes through, whether it is completely understandable or not. But apart from that, you can also just, turn off the light and you can see whether it is properly readable or not. Okay. So yeah. So now that I am happy with this, I will select all these controllers. Like you can also grab a hold of them like this. You still are able to select all of them, but sometimes it doesn't work. Okay. Sometimes like when you're dragging the selection like this, sometimes you lose a few of the controllers. So you can always just make sure that you have everything by selecting your main, selecting the hierarchy and keying them. Okay. That's it. I will get the floor back on. So we have the neutral pose set. Open Raj, yeah, mostly it should be from the camera view, but when we're in the learning phase that everyone is right now, your pose should look clear from all the angles, specifically because we're not using any camera here, right? We haven't animated this according to a camera. An animator should be able to do clear, nice poses despite of the camera view. The reason, see, the thing is that when we are doing it for production, we are doing it according to the camera view. And even if you're doing it as your personal work, you do it according to the camera view that you decide. So it is fine because it is also efficient, time efficient. If you worry about the pose from all the angles all the time, it will take a lot of time to complete the animation. So it is helpful when we do it according to the camera, but when we're learning, we should properly do it from all the angles. So that, let's say, for some reason you have a 360-degree camera view, right? The camera goes like this. Then your pose should look good from all the angles. Okay. All right. So I have everything keyed here. Now, for the stretch, which we created here, we want the tail to stretch out. See, this area will stretch out, but the end should always be pointed, right? Because it is important. The end part of the tail or the tip of the tail should be following the body completely. Okay. So let's straighten this. Yes, for game animations, we have to do it from all the angles because obviously the person controlling the character has the access to all the angles. So it's important. So let's straighten this. And I can see it is tilted in this way. I will slightly control the tilt in the y-axis. And you can see it is a little stretched out here. That is something we don't want. Why is it stretched out? Because of this second controller, second last controller. So you can see it was a little too straight. The rotation was like this. So if I just rotate it down, I get a nice curl towards the end. That's important. So the stretch is there, but the tip of the tail should remain curled. Okay. So you can see I'm also adjusting the poses, the controllers that we had animated earlier to get the shape that I want. Okay. So now if I turn off the light, you can see it's properly visible. Okay. So now you can see it is round like this and then it is stretching out. Now we get the whiplash effect. The position of the tip will change because the hit happened, right? The impact happened that will affect the tail completely. So it will curl into the other direction in between, and then towards the end, it again curls back into the other direction. So what I'll do here is basically we made the tail fall down at 21st frame, right? So this is the frame we'll go to. And what I'll do, I'll start turning the tail in the other direction. Right now, the curl is downwards like this. I'll move it to the other side. Basically, just move it to the opposite direction and continue moving all the controllers till you get them on the ground like this. The point is to get the tail on the ground. Now here, because I'm in the whiplash effect, I can slightly open the tip to show that the tail is actually falling on the ground and becoming straight. Okay, so just doing that. Once you get the animation right, you can spend time and correct the shapes. Okay, so you can see what's happening. It was curled like this. Now it is going out in this way. We need a breakdown pose in between, but this is what's happening. Okay. The tail is falling down, but it's falling down like this. Now we need a breakdown here because you can see in between it becomes really straight. So we want to control the shape. Like the tip part shouldn't instantly become straight and curl out like this. Okay. Why? Because of the delay. See, the base of the tail is obviously straight. Same thing is reaching the tip, but there should be a delay. So in between, we want it to remain curled in this, this curl should happen fast or slow. You can also make it slower. You can also make it faster. So it depends what you're going for. Also, it depends on the speed. If it is supposed to come down really fast, then what you'll do, you'll actually curl it quickly. If it is supposed to come down slowly, then you keep it curled in this direction. So now it depends on the speed. Okay. Now, because it is at such an angle, we actually want the speed of this rotation while it is coming down to be faster over here, then definitely it should curl in the opposite direction first. Okay, so I'm just curling it, curling it, and you can see we got a weird shape. Let's straighten it out in this way, making sure it is nicely curled. So you can see what is happening from this angle. It is quickly turning into this angle because the tail is falling down fast. Now the base should be actually closer to the ground. Because why it should be closer to the ground? Because I'm showing that the speed of the fall is fast, right? That's what we have decided. So obviously we need to make sure that it is getting close to the ground. So this is what's happening. And you can see it comes down like this. It goes into the whiplash, then it falls down. And I want to adjust this pose a bit more. We want it to become a little bit more flatter on the ground. It's a little bit difficult here because you can see if you rotate it outwards, you get a weird curve in the tail. We don't want that. We want it to remain straight like this. So just trying to control it. And now it's a lot better. And now because the tail is just relaxing, we can just open it up. Okay. So it is in neutral, then it goes out, becomes straight, then the whiplash happens, then the tail falls down, and then it is going back into this shape. Right? Now we need to control how the shape is going. The lift off should happen a bit slowly, right? So let's do that. And you can see in between the tail is now very straight. We don't want that. We want it to curl fast. It shouldn't remain straight for a long amount of time. Because as I've said, the tail of the squirrel is always in the S shape. It definitely becomes straighter, like straight in between, not completely straight, still the S shape is there, but that happens very quickly when the whiplash is happening, okay? Then it just goes back to its actual shape. So you can see very quickly I'm again turning it back and then it goes into this position. So okay, so something like this. Now I feel like this speed is very fast, but the fall down is a little slow for me because not a lot of movement is happening from 14 to 21. So it looks slow. So the timing that I gave is not sitting right with me. I want it to be faster. So what I'll do is I'll select the main controller, select the hierarchy, and I'll shift this keyframe to 19, and then I'll test it out. Now you can see it's much better. It's faster. We can try making it more faster. So from 21, I shifted it to 18th. This is even better. See the difference. Let's take it back to 21 and try to observe. See, it looks weird from 14 to 21 because the reason is simply is this, that there is not a big change from 14 to 21, and this is taking such a long time. The reason that it specifically looks weird is because between 11 to 14 we're giving it such a big change, and then after that there is a very short amount of change, but the time is very long, so it looks very weird. Yes, that's the reason why it looks jerky, because of the timing that we've added. That's why it looks jerky. Okay. So when we speed it up, we actually make it much more smoother because the timing works. Okay. You can make it even more faster and experiment with it. This works even well. So the whiplash effect happens very fast. Like if you take a string and you just throw it, like you have it held at one end and you just smack your hand to do that wave effect, you will see it continues to, uh, the wave pattern happens throughout the string and then it goes back quickly, right? So that is something which was off here. But now that we've increased the speed, it's better. Now ignore what is happening at the base here. We'll control it. Okay. It's getting out of the body, then it's going in again. We'll control that. That's not a problem. The main concern is that our shape should look good. So from the side, you can see everything is fine. It curled, the whiplash happened, so the direction changed. It then fell down, and then it is going back to the actual shape. Now this is taking very long from 17 to 24. Now there's a big change, so it's not a very big of a problem, but I want that to happen faster. So now you can see this is much better. From 17 to 21, it is more whiplashy. Okay. I feel like this frame that I pushed at 71, it should be at 18th only. So I'll actually select them and put it at 18th. And now it goes like this. Okay. Now what is happening? We get into this pose and then it is getting to this pose. I said that I will be editing this one and you can see it is just going up and in slowly. There's no dampening or anything which is happening. We want slight dampening to be there as well. So I have all the controllers selected. The key that we added at 29th, I'll select that and I'll put it at 25. And let's see. So this looks a bit fast. Let's put it at 26. That's much better. And I want to edit this pose here as well. So this is curling up like this. Basically, I want the tip part to be more curled. Okay, so I will curl it. See, the reason why I'm curling it more because we will be applying the squash and stretch principle to this. So see, it was stretched out. Now here I want this part to squash and then after that it will open up again. So with squash and stretch, we're adding dampening, right? Usually in the squash and stretch only we add the dampening effect with simple objects like these. So the same thing I'm doing here. It's stretched out here. I want it to be squashed. So that's what I'll do. I will just squash it completely. So you can see, making it become really close together. And I'll also move this last section here as well. And this one, I'll just bring it down. Make sure there's a difference. I shouldn't curl this one more because you can see it looks like it is connected. If we see the silhouette, you can see it looks like it is completely connected. There should be a distance between them. Okay. So just putting some amount of distance here. So it goes like this. I will select the hierarchy and I'll key it. Then at 29th, I want it to stretch out again. Now this will be a very little amount of stretch. Okay. So I will just open this up like this. So you can see very slightly I open it up. So you can see the end is moving quite a lot, but the base doesn't seem to move. So let's move the base as well. Very little in a very subtle way. Okay, I moved it very, very less. Let's move it more. So now you can see it's going in like this. Okay, just trying to make sure that it's subtle but not too much. So you can see squash and stretch. So this is basically dampening. It comes in, then it goes out. Okay, like this you can take the base and make it go out. Like first it comes inwards and then it goes out. Okay, so just follow dampening and squash and stretch principle for this. Okay, like this. So you can see it looks nicely curled and whiplashy, right? Okay. Now, let's talk about the front. Let's see. Like till here, it looks nice because I had curled the tail in that manner. But when it is opening up, you can see it's going in a weird direction. See? So what I'll do here is I'll just control it a little bit. So just moving it in the y-axis. Okay. And we can also move it slightly in the z-axis to get a bit of a break in the tail. Like this. So you can see it is curled, then it straightens out. So this is fine the way it is straightening out because it's just basically straightening out, right? We don't need to break the symmetry too much, but if you want, you can add a slight curl here as well. So you can see it straightens out like this. Then when it comes back up, you can keep this end point tilted in this way. See, this is the third last controller that I'm using, and I'm just rotating it into the Z axis so that I can see the tip of the tail. And I can keep it rotated in that way. So you can see what we did here at 26, we squashed it, right? So we added a bit of dampening. So what I'll do here is I will make sure that it is slightly in. At 22, it was out. At 26, it is slightly in. And at 29th, I'll make it go out again. So you can see it is tilting outside. Okay, so slightly it is going out. Now, there are not a lot of keyframes here that we've given after the squirrel stops. So I'm keeping it very light. Okay, we'll do more of this, like give more of a movement in the tail when we'll do the forward jump, because there will be lots of scenarios, lots of keys where we'll be stopping the squirrel in between. So we will continue to move the tail. Now, this is important because this is a foundation to the squirrel story animation, which we will do in, like, that is the part of the main course. Okay, I've already shown some student results as well before. So, yeah, that is the part of the main course. So, getting a hold of the tail properly is very important because the squirrel character becomes our main character in the story animation. So the tail is a huge part of a squirrel. So it's very important to understand how it moves. Okay. Now that we're done with all this, we can actually take this little controller and just position it so that it's not like it stays connected to the body, right? So just I'm positioning it in this way. So you can see it stays inside, and here I'll zero it out again. So it jumps downwards. Now you can see it looks like the base of the tail, this part is actually moving separately. So you can control that if you want. See, this part is here, right? At 15th, it looks like the base of the tail moves upwards. If you're not happy with that, you can actually bring it down. So it looks like the position stays connected here, and then you can keep on controlling it. So that is a bit advanced, but if you want, you can control it. So now this is what we have. Okay. All right. You can see from all angles it looks good. And then like we can do a nice render for this as well. I'll just quickly adjust the scene. Now, because last time we used V-Ray, we can actually use Arnold for this so that the ones who don't have V-Ray, they can follow along. So I'll just go to the attribute editor. I have the ground selected. Okay, so this is a normal Lambert material. So we cannot change the type of that. Instead, we have to apply a material separately. So I have the object selected. I will right click. I'll go to assign new material. I'll go to Arnold and I will take the AI standard surface material. So here it is. Okay, and here we have it. And I will not change anything right now. By default, there is a slight, like the reflection is already a little bit there in this material. So in Arnold, we call it as specular. Okay, reflection is addressed as specular. It's the same thing. Okay, so I want to select the squirrel, but I'm not able to. That's because the person who rigged it, they have logged it so that you cannot select it from here. You can go to the outliner and to make things easier, just delete the namespace so that you can see things clearly. Just delete them, select the namespace, click on delete, click on merge with root, and delete all of them. Now you can see, like if you open the group, you can properly read everything without getting confused by the namespace. Then you can go inside here. Oh, looks like I have two planes. Let me delete the small one. Okay, now we have only one. Okay, so yeah, you can see this is the geo group. Open it, open the normal geo group, and here we have all the pieces. Okay, so I'm selecting the body first. I'll go to the attribute editor. We have this little triangle here. I'll right click on it. You can see the MTL. MTL is for material. Click on that and you reach it. So I want to change the Lambert to AI standard surface. I'll click on that. Now, sometimes when you change the material like that, the texture goes away. Okay. So don't get scared if that happens. You just need to find the model. So one second. Like the original rig file has all the textures. So you can see if you go inside, you'll find this texture. There's only one texture. So you can use that. So just select the location. Okay, I'm pressing Control C to copy it. And then I'll come back here and I'll go back to that material, name it as body, and we need to apply the texture. So we'll go to the color option here, click on the checkered, go to file, go to folder, and we will apply the texture. So now you can see texture is here and you see it looks a bit darker. So that's because in viewport or during rendering as well, colors look a little bit different, okay, in different render engines. So when you apply any standard surface material and you apply a texture, it looks a little bit dark, okay. Also, since we'll be rendering, we want it to be smooth. So you can smooth it out by pressing 3. So when you have it selected, just press 3. Select all the geometries and press 3. And now that is done. Okay. So for the teeth, you can just apply a normal, like you can just directly change it. There's no texture here. So just change it to AI standard and it's gray in color. So you want it to be completely white. So you can see even if I put it towards the end, the slider, it's still a little bit gray. So that's not a mistake at your end. That's just how the color looks with AI standard surface in the viewport. Okay. So don't worry about that. It will look fine in the render. It will not look this grayed out. Okay. And I'm not changing anything else. I will just apply the light first and then we will adjust everything. So the lights are a little bit annoying because when I turn them on, like I have the light here, you can see I use the area light. Okay, this is the light. I will rotate it, make it larger, and put it up here. So you want to see the render in the viewport. You can go to renderers, you can go to Arnold, and you will have the option here. If you turn it on, you will see everything will look dark. So with Arnold, like by default, the light is completely, I mean, it's basically turned off. It's not like nothing is visible. So what you have to do is you have to increase the exposure to at least 5. 1 second, and then you start increasing the intensity. Then you actually see it lighting up. So you can see the exposure value is actually very less because we have kept the intensity so high, but exposure is still less. So you can go here and type a number like 10, and then you can control the intensity. So basically, just put the exposure to 10 first, and then you control the intensity. Okay. And that way you can control it. And you can see I had just applied the shader. I didn't control the reflection or anything. You can see this is highly reflective. So this doesn't look like a skin. So obviously to make a skin look like a skin, there are so many things that go into it. We're not we're not doing a very high tech render here, high res render here, just a normal render. So for that, you can just simply go to your shader and you can adjust the roughness. If you completely zero out the roughness, what will happen? It will be very, very reflective, very, very shiny. So you don't want this, right? So you want it to look a little bit more realistic. So just increase the roughness. So you can see it looks like this. Okay. Looks good only. And for the teeth, you want it to be shiny. So for that, you can reduce the roughness. So you can see it is nice and shiny here. And then we have something like this. And for the floor, you can select that and keep whatever color you want. You can keep it black or whatever. I'm making it slightly grayish, or maybe let's change it. Mm, I'll keep slightly greenish color. I'm not, I'm doing a weird type of green. Let's make it a little bit more bright, but still like I'm controlling the saturation. If I keep it highly saturated, it looks very bad. Saturation should be always slightly in the middle. So when you click on the color here, you get hue, saturation, and vibrance. Okay. So how vibrant the color is, you can set it with that, and you can like make the color either more saturated or less saturated with this one. Okay. You can choose whatever you want. I'll just keep it black only. That's better. Just simply black, but not so black. I kind of want it to be slightly grayish. You can see if I keep it at green, then what happens? I'm at black here, but when I try to increase the vibrance, I get to see green color. I don't want that. So I take the color pointer to the white side, and that way, when you increase it, you see a grayish color. Okay. So that way you can control it, and that's it. You can see I've just added one light, but it already looks so cool. You can go ahead and you can add two lights as well. I'll stop the render. For some of you, maybe your system is not powerful enough, so you cannot make changes easily in your viewport. So just stop the stop the rendering in the viewport and then adjust the light. I will duplicate this and I'll add another light here, and I will reduce the intensity of this one. So basically, why did I add a light here? Because this side was looking very dark. So you can see how I've positioned the lights. I've put one on the left side, one on the right side. Now the thing is, I don't want the light to be even from both the sides. I want one side to be a little bit lighter. So like it shouldn't be so lit up. I mean, it should be a little bit dark. So I have the light selected. I will just lower the intensity of it, and now this is what we get. Okay. So you can see it looks nice, and then like you can render it. Obviously, here at the top, the light seems to be very bright. Why? Because the character becomes closer to the object. So usually what we do is like when I'm rendering something like that, I actually parent these light to the controller. So let me show you. Like it can be a little bit complex, but let me show you. So basically what I want is when the squirrel is at the top here, the light intensity should remain even. Right now, what's happening? When the squirrel is higher, the light is very bright, right? So I want the intensity to be same. So what I'll do is I have the controller selected, right? Actually, let me show you in a much simpler manner without the rig. I'll just take a sphere over here, putting a key here, putting a key here. So I've just added a very simple animation. Okay. So what I want is that these lights should follow the sphere uh, completely wherever it is traveling. The like right now what's happening? The lights are not following the sphere, but I want that to happen. How to do that? Like I'll go here at the frame where I have the correct distance. So when the sphere is at the ground, this is the correct distance. Okay. What I'll do here is I'll select the lights, both the lights, shift select the sphere and I'll press P. Let me show you what happens. See, right now we have these two individual lights. We have the sphere here. When I select both the lights and I shift select the sphere, that means I select the sphere last and I hit P. If I go to the outliner, you can see the lights actually go under the sphere. What does it mean? It means that the sphere is basically moving the lights. Wherever the sphere is moving, the lights are following it. So what I did here, I created a hierarchy in which the sphere became the parent and the lights became the children. You can see if I select the sphere, the lights look highlighted even though I haven't selected them. Same thing, same thing as this controller. If you select the base, you can see everything is highlighted. That's because there's a hierarchy there. Same thing I recreated here. There are multiple ways of doing this. Like you can actually just take these lights, middle mouse button, drag and drop it under the sphere. Same thing happens. Okay. Or you can select your children first. See here, the lights are the children and the sphere is the parent because wherever the parent is moving, the lights are following it. Okay. So I like whenever you want to create a parent-child hierarchy, you want to select the children first, then select the sphere, and you hit P for parenting. Otherwise, just drag and drop them like this. Same thing will happen. Okay. So I want to do the same thing with the squirrel. So for the squirrel, we had animated the global controller or the root controller, right? So what I want to do is I want to select both the lights and I want to select the global controller or the root controller the last because this that will become our parent. These two are children and the global controller or the root controller of the squirrel is our parent. So I'm selecting it last and I'll hit P. Now you can see it is following the motion of the squirrel. Okay. So now what happens if I hit play, you can see I get the even amount of light. Okay. Of course, that affects the floor now, but that's not a problem because this is our main character. That's where we want to focus it. But the light intensity on the squirrel character remains same. Okay. All right. Uh, OpenRaj, that's just a complex thing. Why do you want to make things complex? Like then you'll have to animate the decay and all of those things. Instead, just parent it. That's much more easier. You want the light to follow the character so it remains the same, so you can do that. Okay. Always be open to learning new things because then you can use it in multiple things that you will be doing. You might have never seen someone doing this, even though this is a very common practice, but maybe you haven't seen. But this makes things so much easier, right? All right. So as you can see, it's working. And then you just go to the render settings. Now here things will be different. Like usually for V-Ray we change it, but this is Arnold, so we keep it to Arnold only, and change it to JPEG or PNG to make things easier. The ones who are experienced, they can use EXR, not a problem. Just use JPEG to make things easier for yourself. And after that, for the main Arnold render settings, first you go there because these are kind of similar only. Just go to the render settings first, and I'll go to the top here to render it. This is how it looks. You can see by default the the settings we have work for us. Although if you zoom in, you can see it is really horrible. From here it looks good, but when we zoom in, it's like very noisy, right? So we haven't actually created a camera. So if you want, you can create a camera as well. We have done that with the ball story animation. So I'm sure you all can do it for this as well. Okay, so try it out. Try animating the camera as well. That way you can do it. Okay, like according to the camera. So anyway, I will keep it close like this. Okay, so this is how we get the result. It's very, very like not very clear, but if you're supposed to see it from this view, it works. Okay. You don't have to change anything. The default settings work. Now, there are lots of things here which obviously require a separate session on its own because we can control many things. Now, in order to understand what these are, you need to know what these do. Okay. So I'm not going to be doing that because that's not the part of our demo. So just render it in the default settings if you're using Arnold, or if you know how to work with Arnold, then you're free to make changes. Okay. Then you can render it like you have to do it the same way. Go to the project window and create a file, and then you can render it. Obviously correct the proper settings here and everything. Do it in HD, and here from here we can set the camera. So obviously this just uh, perspective camera here. So just setting it to that, nothing else. Okay. And by default, it is set to single frame. So we don't see anything. So if you change it to name ext, then you get these access. Like by default, it's like this. So you can see you cannot select the frame range. That means it will only render one frame. So just go to name ext, the second option right below this. Then you get your uh, like the full frame range option, and here you can set from 1 to 29 because it's just 29 frames, and then you can set it from here, project window, and render it out. Okay, so yeah, so that is completed. Okay, so basically we are done with our uh vertical squirrel jump. Okay, and we'll start with the forward one tomorrow. So there will be two more classes, and then the demo will end. Okay, it was supposed to end in 12 days, but it went a little bit longer. That's fine. So just two more classes will be there. Okay, so yeah, that's it. Uh, who is Phoenix Baba? Can you tell me your name? Try to put your real name so that I know who it is. So yes, you can do it, but not with hierarchy. We do that with constraints. Okay. So if you want to do it in a particular axis, you have to go to the rigging options, go to constraint, go to parenting here, and from here you need to do it. Okay. So like if you go to the settings here, you can see we have all these options. So we can control which axis we want to use. So yeah, that is also, if you know how to use, like how to parent things, then you can easily do that. Okay. All right. Any doubts in today's class? Anything which was confusing? Please tell me. No? All right. Okay, guys. Okay. Krishna, you're saying review. Did you send me a file or anything? Uh, can you send it again? I cannot see it. I'll stop the recording. Class is over. So if anybody wants to leave, they can leave.